Okay, I've already done a close-up video of the regular HPI Baja. In this, I'm going to do a comparison of what makes a Baja 5T and a 5SC different from a 5B. Obviously a body, but what underneath the body is different from a 5B. So we're going to take the body off and actually take a look. I don't think many people have actually done this. Immediately you can see a huge rear bumper, taller tires. One thing I don't like is a smaller head. This is only 26cc. I'll be getting 29cc. You can see these big plastic body mounts right here. Up front you have another bumper, and if you look at the shock mount up front compared to this shock mount's sturdier. And the back, if you look back here compared to here, instead of having a wing, you actually have place for a body to mount. So with these bodies, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 places to hold the body on. But as you can see, I'll take this body off too. This really isn't a body, it's sort of a cover more than anything. As you can see, the overall chassis layout is exactly the same. You have the narrow center chassis. I'll even take the gear cover off so you can really see. This 5T is pretty much stock, except for a better clutch, a high-speed clutch. I'm only running a single stage air filter instead of a dual, so I get better airflow. This doesn't have that metal spur gear mount. But other than that, you can see that the chassis is exactly the same. From where the differential is held in the back, the way it's cut, everything is exactly the same. The 5T, the suspension is a little looser, because this is more of a racing vehicle. One thing you will notice if you ever break drive shafts is the pins. With a dog bone, you have pins on each end. Some can be removed, some can't. On the 5B, the pins can be removed and new ones put in if flat spots show up or they shear off. And I've actually had the very stock ones actually sheared off. With the 5SC, the pins cannot be replaced at all. I mean, you probably could with the press, but it would be better just to buy brand new drive shafts like I did. They're stronger drive shafts. The 5B is wider, pretty much all around. You can tell by just the length of the A-arms. You can just look here and then look here. The A-arms, front and back, are wider. I mean, it's a wider stance. Let's actually put them like this so you can actually see. It actually is wider. I mean, the Baja is more like a sandrail. They both have roll bars, front and rear. I'll be getting the MTXL servo for it as well, because the MTXL servo is just freaking amazing. I actually had to tighten down my servo. Thankfully, with this, you could actually tighten down your servo saver, so you didn't have to replace the spring. But overall, everything is pretty much the same, except one thing: the 5SC does not come with this plastic guard right here. As you can see right here, you have this plastic guard. They actually make them in metal as well. But move over to the 5SC, there is no plastic guard. There's a place for one, it's probably missing. I bought this second hand. I got it for $480. While I have it out, you can actually see that this is broken. So I'll be replacing that. That was another part that was broken, that I actually have the other pull start. Wait. Right here. So as soon as this video is over, I'll be putting this pull start on. As you can see on this one, this pull start came off of this one. It has a metal pawl, but I'd rather have the metal pawl on the racing version, because this one I'm going to race. This one is more of going out and having fun, like I did this morning. It's just a monster, just monstrous torque. Rips up the ground. But if I could find something where I can actually measure the width, I mean, let's try this. Yeah, well, no, that ain't gonna work. Oh, here we go, let's try this. From wheel to wheel, that wide with the Baja, is about an inch narrower. And I'm pretty sure that comes down to the tires. The tires on the Baja are shorter, as you can tell, front and back. With the 5SC, you have different foams front and back. The rear foams are stiffer. The front foams are a little softer because you don't have as much weight. You also have this extra little guard right here to protect it when it flips over, instead of having just this small part right here that protects the spark plug just in case of a rollover. When you try to fill these up with gasoline, this one, very easy to get to the gasoline. This one, gonna have to use a funnel. But you can see the only thing added is the body mounts on each side, bumper front and back, and stiffer front suspension setup. But other than that, there aren't any huge differences. You could actually turn this into this if you buy these plastic pieces. You just have to know what part numbers. Personally, I don't know what part numbers. But if you actually look at this is the Baja, it actually has metal steering linkages. The stock HPI, this one's upgraded. The stock HPI F5SC has plastic with the metal in the center. So that really gives you an idea of the difference between the two of them. You can see, if you look, this I have to actually turn so you can really see the difference. There's 3 braces for the motor. There's one that goes behind the fuel tank, and then there's one right here, and then there's a smaller one on the other side. On this one, I ended up losing this piece when I was pressure washing it because the person's house that I pressure washed it at, it got lost. It fell out there, and they ended up throwing it in a leaf pile, and I could never find it. The reason why this does not have a serial number on the battery box, but this one does, this one was a kit. It's on a it's in the box with all the parts, so I'll have to get the box out of my storage shed and put it on the battery box. But this has actually been proven to be HPI. The whole time I thought it was King Motors. Either way, I really don't care. I still love it either way. It's an amazing vehicle. This thing, I will say, with that clutch, surprisingly, you don't get the same power, but because the high response clutch, with this one, the clutch starts kicking in at 6,000 RPM. On this one, the clutch starts kicking in at 8,500 RPM, 8,500 RPM, and doesn't fully kick in until 10,000 RPM. So it sort of gives you a sense of more power, but in reality, it does not have more power. It's the clutch that's getting the engine into the power band before it starts engaging. With this one, just the extra 3 cc's help a little with the power delivery. Well, not power delivery, but the power. And you can actually see this one. This one has a chrome center chassis section that is aftermarket. The person I got this from did this. This still needs, like, these shocks need to be rebuilt because you can see how springy they are. There's barely any oil in them. The front ones I added oil to, but it's a lot springier than the Baja. The Baja is a lot stiffer with the suspension setup. This one is meant to take jumps and land and not really be so stiff. It's supposed to take the impact and keep going. I will say, with these narrower rear tires, it's a lot harder to control because you're going to have less traction with these, but since they're taller, you're actually going to get a little bit higher top speed because with bigger tires, it's just simple math. They're bigger around, so for each full revolution, they move further than a full revolution of the shorter tires. But that's all the differences between a $899 vehicle and a $1,350 vehicle. These plastic parts, the bumpers, and the body. Other than that, there's no difference. So, oh yeah, also the tires. You can't forget that, the tires. Which one's funner? They're both fun. This one is more of a handful to drive because of the tires and because of the high response clutch. And once I get a high response clutch on this one, this will be a little bit more of a handful to drive. And once I put a 29cc head and piston on this is really going to wake this thing up even more. And a pipe. The pipe with this wraps all the way around. No, it wraps all the way around, goes up under here, and then comes back out right about here where the body hole is, where you can get to this. But you can actually see that this pull start comes way up before it even engages. That's why I ended up getting that silver one, and this one's going to go on where it engages as soon as I pull it out. So those are the differences between a regular HPI Baja and a Baja 5SC. So, oh yeah, and you get mud flaps on the bumpers. They're a little narrow, honestly. They're the tires. It only covers about half the tire because it. I mean, if you can actually look and see about this much and over isn't being protected by that mud flat, but it's a cool little addition to make it look more scale. Is this going to handle like a Vecta 5? No. Vecta 5 has a completely different setup. A Vecta 5 has a solid axle in the rear. This has independent suspension in the rear, so the tires are probably going to keep planted better. But yeah, the Vecta 5 is a completely different beast, and in my opinion, better. It's been named the best fifth scale 2 years in a row now. So I hope this video helps educate some people on the differences between a HPI Baja 5B and HPI Baja 5SC. Only difference is bumpers, mounts for the body, and the body itself. Also, the same thing as with the 5T, except the 5T has a little bit different setup, and it sits a little bit higher up off the ground. The suspension actually sits a little bit higher up off the ground from what I've seen myself. So that's it. I hope that's informative. Peace.